You're listening to the Rise Above podcast, the only podcast on the planet with a mission to help you live a free and uncommon life. Here's your host, Greg Smith.
Yes. Welcome to the Rise Above podcast. My name is Greg Smith, and today is episode number 12. I want to thank you so much for joining me. I am your host, and I believe if you desire uncommon freedom in business and in life, then it starts with creating a champion's mindset from within. So today I have a hot topic. It's money. We've talked about money a lot on this podcast, but today I want to talk about how everybody has a plan for your money. And the sad truth of the matter is everybody's trying to get your money. And that's not a conspiracy theory, it's just fact. The fact is, if money is in your pocket, it's not in somebody else's. You know, the government is trying to get your money, and that is through taxes, which they get, as long as you're a good citizen and you're paying your taxes. But there are also other ways that they're trying to get your money. Banks are trying to get your money through fees, through giving you a certain percentage, so you'll keep money there inside of their bank, which they actually use and make more money with, along with retailers and people who sell things like Nike and Reebok and all of those different stores and malls. You have charities that are trying to get your money. And so what I want to give you today is my simple formula to knowing exactly where my money goes, because what I have realized is in the past, if I didn't have a plan for my money, somebody else did. And the money ended up escaping my hands and ending up in somebody else's. And the number one rule to become wealthy or to set yourself up and your family for the long term for either retirement or to be able to take vacations like we're getting ready to take to Disney with our family is when you make money is to keep it. And far too often, a lot of people make money, but they're very bad at keeping it. And this isn't one of those where I'm not going to tell you that you need to hoard money, but you do need to be smart with money. And so I want to give you some simple rules and philosophies that I've used to keep more of the money that I make over the years, because I'll be very transparent. It was about 4 or 5 years ago, I started making more money in 1 month than I ever made in an entire year. And I have a couple of businesses now, but this one particular business just skyrocketed. And we're still making some of that same kind of money. However, what happened was I was what I call quote unquote new money. And new money happens at all different levels. It's a pay raise that you might get. It might be an inheritance that comes in. It might be an unexpected $100 that comes in, but that's new money. And because I was new money and I didn't have a plan for my money before that money started to come in, it ended up escaping me in many ways. And since then, I've had to formulate a very specific plan to keep more of what I earned, but ultimately to grow it. Because that's really what's important, is to keep and then grow and then make an impact with that money. And so I want you to understand that first off, it's nobody else's responsibility to manage your money other than your own. And some people who may be listening to this may be financial planners, and God bless you, but most financial planners, I know a couple that are pretty good, but there's a difference between a financial planner and then, somebody who is actually responsible for your fiduciary interest. Like, they have to, by law, and you can find these people, by law, they have to do what's in your best interest. Then you have other people who are just not really held legally responsible, and that's the majority of financial planners, to do what's in your best interest. And so, if you think about it, a 401k or some type of program that locks your money away until you're older is not because the government wants you to save money on taxes. It's not the case. It's because they want to control your money, and they want to guarantee that they can control your money for years to come. Because if you don't know, there's something called fractional lending. And you can look this up, but essentially what it means is that a bank can take $100 And back in the day, before they changed this, that bank could then loan the $100 out, and then your money would be insured. And now, though, what they can do is they can take $100, and because it's in their bank, they can fractionally lend out an exponential amount more than that, like $10,000. I mean, it's absolutely incredible, and it's fake. They don't actually have it. It's just because they're holding your money, they can fractionally lend more. And you might say, Greg, what's this have to do with me? Well, I'll tell you, it has everything to do with you, because they want your money in their bank so they can lend more money out and earn interest. That's how they make money, is they earn interest on those loans. And I'll tell you, I learned something very simple. Well, we'll get to that. I'll get to that by the time we're done with today's podcast. But banks want your money because they make money off of your money. That's why they want your money. That's why they incentivize you to do CDs. That's why they incentivize you on certain money market accounts. If you look, they want a minimum of $10,000 in them or $25,000, and they incentivize you to put more money into those accounts and then they give you a better interest rate. But they're giving you a better interest rate because they can make more money on your money than they're paying you. Listen to that again. They make more money on your money than what they are paying you. And so there's a simple thing that I'll share with you at the end that you can then become the bank. But that's not the point of today's podcast. Today's podcast is all about helping you and giving you a framework to where you can now have an understanding of where your money is going before it comes in. Now, I'm all for budgeting. You specifically, if you have listened to me, you know that I think that's smart in a way, but I'm going to share with you how I budget and how I kind of have this 3 or 4 step, way of doing it. But first, before, you have to really understand the importance of this, because I see too many people, you're working for money. I mean, that's why we work. We work for money so we can pay bills and we can live life. We can have experiences. We can give our kids things. We can buy food, all those necessities. But far too often, we think it's somebody else's responsibility to manage our money, and we entrust our money to somebody else. And that somebody else can be a person, it can be an institution, it can be, a quote unquote vehicle like 401k. Maybe it's a CD. You put your money away and you get X percentage over the next, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, whatever that might be. It's all at an expense. And when I learned this, I started to take me as the man of the household, and you may not have a man of the household, or maybe, there's some amazing females that, or women that run the household, or maybe you're single or whatever it is. Like, whoever's responsible needs to take that job very serious, because number one, money is the number one reason most people get divorced. And so it's because people don't make it a priority. They don't make it a point to really understand money. And the whole saying of the rich get richer, it's because the rich study money and they understand that they have to, as do you, understand where the money is going and why. And when we start to put money in different things blindly, and we just do it to save money on taxes, or maybe your friend says this is a great investment, etc., we can make some poor decisions. And so I'm going to give you my framework for for how I choose for my money to go for me and my household every single month. And then I'll tell you why I choose it to go in certain areas. And then maybe what you can do is you can take some of what I do and start to apply it to what you do. Because I'll tell you, this was the biggest thing for me. I used to really try to budget things out. I knew exactly how much my bills were. I knew exactly how much income I was having. Now, as an entrepreneur, one of the biggest variables is your income. It can fluctuate, especially when you get to a level to where we are within a couple of our businesses. It can fluctuate highly, but not to where we're not able to pay our bills this month. But it can be like, well, I can't count on that next month, so I need to figure out what to do with it this month, or maybe certain months are slow, whatever it may be. But this system works no matter how your income comes in, if it's consistent every month or if it changes every month. And so here's how it works. So we take gross of what comes in, And right off the top, no matter what your belief is, we do 10% tithing. And that tithing, my own personal belief, is to anything that is God's storehouse. So that doesn't mean one institution, one church. Like some people will say, and I could be wrong on this. This is just, I've really prayed about this over the years, is I believe it's anything that has to do with expanding God's kingdom. Now, you may not be a believer. That's between you and the maker, whatever you believe. But that 10%, I truly believe that everybody would be better off if you took 10% of your income and you give it away to charity. Now, that charity has to be something that truly has your heart. It's got to be something that fires you up. You can't be an ungrateful giver. It's a whole nother podcast topic, but don't give to something because you feel compelled to give to something. Don't just say, well, this is what we do and I just give over here. Like, give to something that has your heart. Give to something that you can be involved with. You can see the impact that it's making, because I will tell you that will motivate you to give more. And as an entrepreneur, it'll motivate you to make more so that you can give more. And that's really what it's all about.
Are you someone who wants to live life on your own terms? Do you dream of having more time to spend doing the things you love? Then download your copy of The Freedom Formula absolutely free at www.riseabovepodcast.com. What are you waiting for? Go to www.riseabovepodcast.com to get your free copy of The Freedom Formula.
So 10% right off the top, charity, whatever that may be for you. I have another 10% goes to savings. Now, I have a particular way that I do my savings, which I'll share with you here in just a couple of minutes, that I have figured out. Most people right now, you may be putting 3% or 6% away into a 401k, specifically if you're an employee and you're getting the matching benefit from your company, and that might be your percentage, right? I would encourage you to up that to 10%. Now, personally, I would not encourage you, and I am not a financial planner, but that also means that I don't make money on your money. So I'm just telling you from experience, because frankly, I don't know too many people. I really don't. And maybe ask yourself this: how many people do you know that are living off of their 401k? So that's the question I always ask. Like, who do I know that is actually successful with XYZ? So number one, do I know anybody personally who's successful in terms of living their retired life off of their 401k? Personally, literally personally, I don't know a single soul. I know teachers. I know a lot of government employees, and this isn't a bash on them. This is, good for them, that do live very well off of some pensions and other plans, but not typically 401k. I do also know a few friends that are teachers and government employees who have, in my opinion, gotten hoodwinked over the years to where they were supposed to be retiring in 3 years, and then they moved the date back. They said, well, now you have to work for this long. And so that's something you can't control. And when I can't control something, I don't invest into it. I don't count on it. So number one, who do you know that has been, that is living that out? Number one. And then number two, if you do know somebody, is that retired lifestyle the kind of lifestyle that you want to live? And if the answer is no to both of those, then cut that out. Don't invest into that anymore and go find something else. So I have found something else, and I actually know people personally that live off of it and do exceptionally well, better than anybody else that I know. And the Rockefeller family would be an example of that. Now, I don't know them personally, but I know people who have modeled what they've done and had some of the same success. So back to the little formula here, though. You got 10% going to charity and or tithing, whatever that may be for you. You have 10% is going somewhere to save. Okay, we're not going to get into what that is. I mean, I kind of just did, but I told you what it shouldn't be, in my opinion, based upon my experience. Now, that's my experience. But you have to, again, look at things objectively and ask, who else do you know that is successful with that vehicle? And I just don't know too many people. And I will tell you that my wife's parents both worked for the same company for over 40 years each. And they're not really, there's not much there from 401k. It's just, whatever that may be. So there's an experience for me. Your experience, you may have a very wealthy family member who has done exceptionally well by putting money into a 401k. But you got to get into those conversations, because that's one thing. I grew up, we didn't talk about money, but when you actually talk about money and you get somebody who's willing to share with you what that is, you'll find out most people are not living off of their 401k, hence the reason most people get a job after they retire. So that doesn't make sense to me. Back to the formula, 30% taxes. So if you're an entrepreneur and your money is not being taxed up front, we put 30% aside to save that for either paying monthly, you can pay quarterly, monthly, or at the end of the year, pay a little bit of penalty, which is typically what we choose to do, because I want to keep my money in my hands as long as possible, because I want to earn the interest instead of having the bank or the government earn the interest on my money. So that's that. So you have 10%, again, charity tithing, you got 10% savings, and then you have 30% that I put away for taxes. Now, if you're an employee, that's already being done for you, so you don't have to worry about that. And then most importantly, the fun part for you and me is I take 10% and I call that the living wealthy account. And we literally take 10%, we throw it in a separate account, and we use that for whatever it is that we want. Whatever it is that we want. You know, if you want to buy something at REI, or you want to take a trip and have some fun, that is like guilt-free money that we can spend and enjoy. And, you know, a lot of times when somebody sees this at first, they kind of freak out and they say, well, Greg, I'm not even making enough money to pay my bills. How can I do that? Or, you know, good for you. You can put 10% away from savings. I can't do that. Or living wealthy, I mean, like, I got so many other things that need to happen first. Well, this is framework. Your percentages may be different at first. They may be different at first, but I can tell you that life is better when this framework is put into place. And part of that may be you may need to downsize a few things. I can tell you, I was just in my hometown this morning, and I can tell you many memories like are going through my head of just like, you know, I call it eating cheese and crackers. Like I ate cheese and crackers for a very long time in my business to be able to get to where I am today. I've also reinvested a lot of money. I was talking to a very close friend yesterday, and he's like, you know, I'm showing him a newsletter or a program I'm a part of, and he's like, how many of those are you a part of? And I'm like, well, okay, I got this. And I'm literally counting all of these hundreds and thousands of dollars that I have invested back into myself. And I will tell you that if you're having a hard time figuring out what to invest into, if you're looking at that, you know, that 10% of savings, you know, and maybe you're an employee and maybe you want to start a business. Well, instead of investing into 401k, maybe you invest into a course that shows you how, like an online course that shows you how to, and I have those, but I don't, there's no link here. I'm not giving you a link, whatever, but I have courses that show you how to start an online business, how to start something on the side. Maybe you invest into something like that has the potential to help you bring in more income. Or, you know, where I invest a lot into personal growth, I invest a lot into courses, I invest into myself. And some of that even falls upon health-wise, you know, as I'm driving home from my farm today, it's about an hour drive. I'm driving home, I get a message from our mutual calendar with my wife, and it says, your massage is scheduled for next Tuesday at 10:30, because she scheduled it for me. My wife did, but she also scheduled her own. And that's because we invest into ourselves and taking care of our bodies. And so the very first investment you should be making is not into some far off retirement plan that may or may never come. You might not live, like we are not promised. I've seen far too many people. The older I get, the more people I know. I drove past a friend's house today. It was just a lot of emotions, but I drove past his house, and it's where I grew up. Lots of memories happened there, and his name was Steve. And so I was just thinking, like, how lucky am I? Because Steve got in a very bad car accident when I was 19 and passed away. But I'm thinking, like, how fortunate am I that I'm alive? Like, why am I still alive and he's not? Like, why is that? And we'll never know. Never know. But my point is like having that revelation of just knowing like you may or may not be alive to retirement. And so to put all of your hopes in that basket monetarily, I don't think is worth it. And there are ways, if you look up books about cash flow banking and doing certain things with life insurance policies, there are ways that you can invest into the future more cost effectively. And still, if you were to pass, set your family up to where you're leaving them a legacy or you're leaving them financially stable. And so all that to say, I just really think you should always be looking down the road, but start looking at now. What can you do now? What are the experiences you can have now? Because we're not promised tomorrow. You're not promised next year. You're definitely not promised to be 65 or 70 by the time that you can touch your money. And at that point, are you going to be in the shape, like physically, that you can go travel or you can really enjoy yourself? I mean, I hope so. That's my goal, but you're not promised your health either. So you might be alive, but you might not be in great condition to enjoy the fruit of your labor. So the framework that I gave you today shows you how you can enjoy the fruit of your labor today, but most importantly, still be setting yourself up for the future. And I think that's really the key, is when you have that 10% living wealthy account, you can enjoy the fruit of your labor today. You got 10% that's going to savings. That's setting yourself up for the future. By the way, that savings may only be 3%, 2%. It may get cranked up to 15%, if you're fortunate enough to have excess cash, right? And then you have your taxes, and then you have charity. And so when you have that framework, you can start living today at the fullest, but also be investing into your future. So I just wanted to share, my personal framework. To me, it's better than getting into every penny, every dollar, and really starting to squeeze things out. I wholly believe in getting rid of things that should not be on your docket each and every month and minimizing some of those excess things. But at the same time, I also believe in enjoying yourself and living life to the fullest today, because we are not promised tomorrow. So that is it for today's podcast episode. I hope that you found value within it. And as always, if you did, I would highly, highly appreciate if you head over to riseabovepodcast.com and you leave me a review or a rating. If you're on iTunes, you can just do that right from your app right now. Just give me, a couple stars. 5 stars would be awesome, but whatever it is, you can also just leave a note or a review that says kind of what you get out of the podcast. That way we can continue down this road together, and you can partner with me in truly helping get a message out that I believe change the world. So take care. God bless. Until next time.
This is thepodcastfactory.com.